what it takes to win, whether it's a sporting team, an army, or a family? It's very simple. It's your reserves. When you put the first team in on a basketball team, or whether you put it in on a football team, they play and they play and they play, but you know how they really evaluate the capacity of a team to go all the way? It's by their bench. What have they got sitting there to back up the front guys if somebody gets hurt or whatever? The reserves. The reserves are what are important. Let's talk about the greatest military fighting machine in the history of mankind. It was the Roman army. They weren't technological. They just cut, peeled, and sliced. But very simply, the Roman army did what they could do because of their reserves. They learned a very interesting thing. The human being in peak physical condition can actually go all out for about 12 minutes. So they set their army up in 3 ranks. They had the front rank, the second rank, and the third rank, and they timed it. They had a bugler that would notify the troops when to move forward and when to move backwards. They didn't have radios, so they had sound. Over the sound of the battle, the trumpeter would notify. The centurion would stand back there, and he'd tell the trumpeter, he'd watch the time, and he'd let them get in there, and the front row would get in there and cut, peel, and slice for 12 minutes. Then they would back up to the back. They would become the third rank, and the second rank would come up, and they'd cut, peel, and slice for 12 minutes. And then the third group would come up, their reserves would come up, and they would cut, peel, and slice, and they would wear every army down. That's the way they won. They used their reserves. Food is the most important reserve any family can have. Families that are in a situation where financially they're really strapped, when they get counseling, they're told to put in a 2-week supply of food and then pay the rest of their bills. And if they have that food in there, they've got the security and the stability. If a family can put in the reserve of food, then they can deal with all sorts of stress. Do you realize that when a family's under real severe stressful conditions, you know, every once in a while I run into somebody that says, well, if I'm hungry enough I can eat anything. I'll go out and pop a deer on the head with a rock or whatever it takes. That's not true. When you're under stress, you need the most nutrition, you need better food than when you're under normal circumstances. Do you realize that in our times we've gotten away from the old pioneer habit of having the reserve set back, the supply of food that no matter what happens they can always feed their family? Do you realize in our modern times, with everything that we know and all the technology, the American family is the only fighting machine that is trying to do it without a reserve? Food. That's it. We have the capability of winning every battle if we can sustain ourselves independently and fearlessly with food.
Only the finest sun-ripened and fresh produce grown and harvested following the Good Agricultural Practices guidelines. Not only are our ingredients GAP certified, but we carefully test them for chemical and microbial contaminants like Salmonella and E. coli before the approved ingredients are blended into our exclusive recipes following strict quality control standards established and audited by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. These ingredients contain no trans fats, no hydrogenated oils, and no MSG, because the freeze-drying process removes moisture and infuses chemicals into the food to prolong the shelf life. All of our ingredients are dehydrated only using low heat, and no chemical preservatives are ever added. Our dehydration process naturally preserves the food so that upwards of 92% of the nutritional value remains intact. These quality ingredients are then packaged in moisture-resistant, light-resistant, proprietary assurance packaging that is flushed with carbon dioxide to prevent oxidation and guarantee longer shelf life and quality before sealing the package. Finally, we date stamp the outside of the package the day we prepare the food reserves, so you know you're getting fresh food reserves. Global reserves, when properly stored, maintain their flavor and quality for up to 25 years. Now, I know what you're thinking. These can't possibly be the reserves. But these delicious meals are exactly what you get when you prepare your eFoods Global Meals. And none of these meals require more than a pot of boiling water, the contents of a package, and 10 to 20 minutes. Pretty soon, you are going to select some of these delicious meals to try for yourself for free. That's a great opportunity.